Welcome back for a special new top 10 list. This time I thought we'd look back at my top 10 or 10 films that hold a very special nostalgia place for me. This is my list of my top 10 favorite Walt Disney films, known as I call it the Michael Eisner era. Now, if you know anything about Michael Eisner, he was CEO, head of Disney from 1984 to 2005, and would unfortunately be replaced by Bob Iger. Now, I'll get into that in maybe sometime, but for me, in my opinion, after Walt Disney, the greatest head of Disney and some of the greatest films that Disney has ever produced was done under the Michael Eisner era. Maybe it's blind nostalgia, as the 90s was my decade growing up. And so, with that said, first we have six honorable mentions. I didn't quite make the top 10, but these are my personal favorite films that came out during the Michael Eisner era. So expect some animated. There was a total of three Pixar films produced under the Michael Eisner era. So, with that said, first of the honorable mentions, released in 1993, is The Adventures of Huck Finn, which stars a young Elijah Wood, of course better well known as Frodo Baggins in the Lord of the Rings films. Second honorable mention, I loved the whole entertainment aspect, like Las Vegas style, and music that was nothing like actual mythology. Next honorable mention, released in 1997, part of the Disney Renaissance, which is mostly thanks to Michael Eisner, and unfortunately, by the time this film came out, his right hand over animation stuff would be gone, but still a great amount of importance and influence for many years. He had that being Katzenberg, which, if you ever like me, I do a video about some of the basic history, at least the animation side of things of Disney. I'd be more than willing to talk about Katzenberg as well as Michael Eisner and many other elements. This is my favorite time period, the Disney Renaissance. But next honorable mention goes to Hercules. After that is the second ever Pixar film that would be done co-op between Pixar and, of course, Disney. A Bug's Life, released in 1998. Then next honorable mention is a almost forgotten about by many people. I think a criminally underrated film, superb and great, and I'm surprised no one hardly ever talks. Not even Nostalgia Critic has ever talked about, and yet that's his whole gimmick is nostalgia. Well, I guess I'm talking about a few nostalgia things he hasn't talked about. And that being Tall Tale, released in 1995, is a great Western film, and I think the casting is great. Also, it's cool seeing some of the heroes, characters in the film, like Paul Bunyan, with, of course, his Blue Ox from classic legends, as well as also you had, I can't forget out, Pegasus Bill, which was known for riding tornadoes. Yes, I'm serious. Check out the trailer. It is a criminally underrated, superb, great, fun family film of the 90s that more people need to check out. Also, honorable mention, the all-time classic, The Little Mermaid. And the last of the honorable mentions, another criminally underrated film by Disney. Uh, Indian in the Cupboard, which is based off a book by the same name. I highly recommend checking out these films if you've never heard of, especially Indian in the Cupboard or Tall Tale or The Adventures of Huck Finn. Check them out. They are great films. I have a heavy amount of love and nostalgia for. Keep in mind. But with that said, coming at number 10 is, I think, one of the greatest video game, or not video game, but movies based on comic books. And yes, this was done under the Michael Eisner era. Released in 1990, based off the comic book by the same name, coming in number 10 favorite Disney film of the Eisner era goes to Dick Tracy. Superb, great film. Love it. It is very, I think, pretty loyal to the actual source material, though I don't really know too much overall about the comic book that's based on, but I think it's a great, fun film, and it's actually a bit more mature of the time period for Disney at that moment. But still is a good overall family, I think, film. If you like gangster mobster type movies and stuff, but with a little bit of like a hint of like comic book stuff, it's a great choice, and I think a criminally underrated comic book movie that I'm amazed more people don't talk about, as I think it's a masterclass from the 90s. Coming at number 9 is the first of the Disney Renaissance anime films that is on my top 10. There's only a select few, keep in mind, because I'm trying to keep it somewhat balanced between with live action, an element of CG, and 2D animation. That's another big reason I loved uh, Michael Eisner. He was a big supporter and big backer of 2D animation, unlike Iger, which basically killed 2D animation. But I'm not gonna go into one of my Iger rants. But for me, Eisner was incredible and led to much creativity in his time, such as coming at number 9, released in 1992, and that is, of course, loosely based on Arabian Nights. Coming in at number 9 is Aladdin, which is one of Disney's all time classics of the Disney Renaissance era of anime films. Mostly has to do with, thanks to, of course, the great amount of comedy and flow to the movie, such as involving Genie, of course, voiced by the great late Robin Williams, as well as a great villain that is Jafar, which I'm still a big fan of. And I don't hate Gilbert Godfrey as Iago as much as some people out there. Coming at number 8, released in 1990, is one of the most criminally underrated Disney animated films of all time, in my opinion. It is miles and leagues better than the first film, and that is The Rescuers Down Under. And this is a film that deserves way more love than it gets. I'm glad in recent years it's gaining a bigger and bigger cult following. As time has progressed, more people are starting to recognize the greatness that is The Rescuers Down Under, which is far better than the original Rescuers, though it is still one of my personal favorite anime films of, I want to say, the 70s when the original came out. But for me, Down Under is superb, great. The characters are awesome. The music, the animation is drop dead gorgeous. Even still, it has aged very well. And I like the villain because he's actually pretty fun, but can also be very intimidating at the same time. It is interesting also the film takes place in Australia, which is unique and different for things from Disney animation. But to me, this movie deserves a lot more praise. Coming at number 7, released in 1996, midway through Disney Renaissance, arguably probably the darkest film of the Disney Renaissance, much more mature tone, especially with the character Esmeralda on the more temptation side of things. But Judge Frollo makes one of, I think, the greatest, more well rounded, more realistic in reality villains because he actually easily can exist in the real world because he has no superpowers or anything. And his song Hellfire is a masterpiece. But for me, coming at number 7 is The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Coming in at number 6 is another criminally underrated film released in 1991. This film has a very hardcore loyal cult following, speaking as one of those people who will continue praising this movie until the day I die, and I will stand on this hill. And number 6 is The Rocketeer. Film is great, a lot of fun if you like spy thrillers or things like that, and lots of good, solid action and good pacing. The Rocketeer is one of those. I think it is a definite masterpiece of the 90s. And it's a great, fun, high octane, pulse pounding, fun action film for the whole family to enjoy. And you don't always have that. That can be family friendly. At number 5, released in 1995, is the original first, of course, film involving Pixar, and that is Toy Story comes at number 5. Coming in at number 4 is a tie between two more comedy based things, both family friendly relatively. But coming in at number four is a tie between first, the film of the two was released in 1993, based loosely off of the true story of Jamaican bobsled team, and that is Cool Runnings, which is awesome and still remains one of my top five favorite comedies ever. And it is tied at four with the remake of The Parent Trap, starring a younger, of course, Lindsay Lohan. Released in 1998, great soundtrack, especially Beatles Can't Beat It, and many other things. And I think it is way more enjoyable. And just overall, I prefer the actors and stuff in the remake of Parent Trap over the original Parent Trap, though it is a classic, don't get me wrong. But I just think there's a little more heart. And I just also like the main villainous, if you want to call. And sometime maybe I'll do a actual traditional review on the Parent Trap remake, as it has a heavy amount of nostalgia for me. Coming in at number three is a masterpiece that hardly anyone has been able to surpass. For me, third favorite film, another part of the Disney Renaissance, and that is it was released in 1991 with a master class of singers and an awesome, normally you would think of would be the hero of the story, but is in fact the villain, the stuck up snob Gaston. And of course, that is Beauty and the Beast, with great songs, especially many great moments in it, like Mrs. Potts, voiced by definitely have many great voice actors in the film. The songs are great, like Be Our Guest is an all time classic. The Beast himself was awesome. The animation is superb. Just overall, it is a I think it is a timeless classic. Coming in at number two, and believe it or not, yes, this technically was released during at the very tailspin end of the Michael Eisner era, released in 2003, as he technically did not leave for 2 more years after. He is the one responsible. He, thanks to people under him, got in touch with, at the time, the very much growing major star of Johnny Depp about the idea of a swashbuckling adventure. You know what's coming next? My second favorite film under the Michael Eisner era at Disney goes to Pirates of the Caribbean Curse of the Black Pearl. Comes in at number two. Yes, the original Pirates of the Caribbean film was actually done under the Eisner era. Some probably think it was under Iger, but no, it was actually Michael Eisner. Also, fun fact, Michael Eisner people were played a major role in also the creation of the original Kingdom Hearts game with Tetsu Nomura. Fun little fact. Coming at number one should not be a surprise. It is my favorite Disney film of all time, not just the Eisner era, but is easily my favorite that did end up coming out of the Michael Eisner era and out of the Disney Renaissance. Released in 1994, with maybe a little bit of inspiration from Kimba the White Lion, and of course, heavily influenced by Hamlet and the great Jeremy Irons as the great villain, Scar, or as others refer to as the lion version equivalent to Jafar, Lion Jafar. But with that said, all the songs are great. James Earl Jones as Mufasa, spot on. Great other characters, Rafiki, of course, the hyenas, as well as Timon and Pumbaa. Though I could be fine never hearing Hakuna Matata again. That song's overrated. However, the great masterpiece music in this film that was done and involved the great, of course, Sir Elton John. With many great Circle of Life, though, being one of the big standouts, but also Be Prepared, which I literally know the song word for word. But with that said, that is my number one favorite film of the Michael Eisner era, and of course, that is The Lion King. But with that said, and yeah, I thought since I was going nostalgia, why not put on my Blockbuster shirt? But with that said, hopefully enjoy the music in the background. I chose, of course, the main music from the actual score in none other than Final Fantasy VIII. I would have liked to have used Disney music, but I'm too scared to death of Disney bots slapping me with a copyright strike or claim. So yeah, I chose Final Fantasy VIII because I've not had any major issues, knock on wood, with Square Enix. So with that said, I'll see y'all next time. Stay safe. Let me know if you'd like me to do one of these top lists of like my favorite films under the Walt Disney era at the Walt Disney Company. And I mean, even though I'm not the biggest fan of Iger, if you want me to do like a top 10 movies list under the Bob Iger era, I'll give my opinion, and maybe also top 10 worst films under Iger. But with that said, I just wanted to share a little bit of my love and passion for the fact is, I think my Eisner is a criminally underrated and great CEO. He took a lot of what Walt Disney did for the company, he took it even farther. He helped keep enemies at bay. He actually helped keep Disney from actually getting bought out by Comcast. Fun fact. But with that said, I'll see you again soon enough. Same YouTube time, same YouTube channel. But seriously, quickly before I cut this up, seriously, check out the movie, specific ones I mentioned, Tall Tale, and also Indian in the Cupboard, and also Rescuers Down Under. These are classic Disney era films of the 90s that deserve way more love than they get. But with that said, see you again soon enough.